Gaurangi Radhe Vrindavaneshwari Vrishabhanu Sute Devi Pranamami Hari Priye Vancha Kalpatarupyascha Kripa Sindhubhya Evacha Patitanam Pavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namaha Jai Sri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Sri Advaita Gadadhara Srivasadi Gaura Bhakta Vrinda Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Hare Krishna. So we're reading today from Srimad Bhagavatam, Canto 11, Chapter 2, Text 51. So before I start, I request the blessings of all the devotees here to speak according to the Guru Parampara, something which is enlivening and inspiring to our spiritual life. The section where we're in is the Navayogendras, the sages, are explaining the qualities of great devotees. Actually, the qualities of all devotees. They start with speaking the 3 verses describing the quality of the pure devotee, the Uttama Bhakta, then the intermediate devotee, the Madhyama Bhakta, and then they have described the Kanishta Adhikari, those who are still very much absorbed in materialistic consciousness while executing devotional service. And now they are describing in these verses, we had already had a few, there will be still some more to come. They'll describe additional qualities of the topmost devotee. So we find a lot of these descriptions of great devotees or highly realized souls. These are symptoms. In the Bhagavad Gita, for example, we find in the 2nd chapter, there's about a little bit more than 20 verses in the end of the 2nd chapter, all describing the Stita Pragya, a self-realized personality. So these symptoms, they are natural for these souls. For us, they serve as a guide. For us, they serve as symptoms we want to cultivate in our own spiritual life. But we, at the same time, we cannot jump to this stage. We cannot just pretend, oh yes, I'm going to be that. No, it's something. And when we read about the character of a pure soul, it's something to aspire for and something to try to integrate in our own life. And at the same time, with the understanding that I'm still on the path, and I cannot just artificially develop these kind of symptoms. So with that spirit, we're going to read this verse. We're going to hear a description of a pure soul. And then we're going to look into how we can integrate that in our own life. Na yasya janma karmabhyam na varnashrama jatibihi sujate sminnaham bhavo dehe vaisa hare priyaha. And synonyms. Na, there is not, yasya, of whom, janma, by good birth, karma abhyam, or meritorious acts, na, not, varna ashrama, by adherence to rules of occupational or religious duty, jatibihi, or by belonging to a certain class of society, sajjate, attaches itself, asmin, in this body, aham bhava, egoistic sentiment, dehe, in the body, vai, indeed, saha, he, hare, to Lord Hari, priyaha. Translation: birth in an aristocratic family and the execution of austere and pious activities certainly cause one to take pride in himself. Similarly, if one enjoys a prestigious position within society because his parents are highly respected members of the Varnashrama social system, one becomes even more infatuated with himself. But if despite these excellent material qualifications, one does not feel even a tinge of pride within himself, he is to be considered the dearmost servitor of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Purport: according to Srila Sridhar Swami, the word Janma, good birth, refers to such classes as the Murdhavastikas, Murdhavastikas, children of Brahmana fathers and Kshatriya mothers, Ambashtas, children of Brahmana fathers and Vaishya mothers, both of which are considered Anuloma, since the father comes from a higher caste. Marriages in which the mother comes from a higher class than the father are called Pratiloma. In any case, one who becomes proud of his so-called prestigious birth is certainly in the Bali concept of life. Birth in any material body is a serious problem, which one should solve by surrendering to the Supreme Personality of Godhead. One can thereby release himself from the golden shackles of a so-called aristocratic material body. According to Srila Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Thakur, Kanishta Adhikaris think that karma mishra bhakti, or devotional service mixed with material endeavor, is the ultimate in spiritual life. They become attached to verses such as this: Varnashram acharavata purushena parah puman Vishnur aradhyate pantha nanyatattosha karanam. The Supreme Personality of Godhead, Lord Vishnu, is worshipped by the proper execution of prescribed duties in the system of Varna and Ashrama. There is no other way to satisfy the Supreme Personality of Godhead. One must be situated in the institution of the four Varnas and Ashramas. Thus they think that material work in which a portion of the fruits are offered to God forms the highest platform of human life. According to Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur, there are several Smriti literatures that have encouraged such mixed devotional service. Such books are taken by materialistic devotees as facility for offending the holy name of the Lord because of egoistic attachment to the material body. Thus one thinks that a prestigious position in the Varnashrama system according to birth and so-called pious activities is a prerequisite for becoming successful in life. But those who have actually taken shelter of the holy name of Krishna never boast about their birth in the material world, nor do they pride themselves on their so-called expertise in material work. As long as one's mentality is encumbered by the material designations of the Varnashrama system, one has very little chance of becoming free from material bondage and establishing himself as dear to the Lord. In this regard, Chaitanya Mahaprabhu emphatically declared that he could not identify himself with any Varnashrama designation, such that of a great intellectual or priest, a courageous warrior in the Lord's army, a brilliant businessman making money for the Lord, or the hardest worker for the Lord. Nor could Chaitanya Mahaprabhu identify himself as a stalwart brahmachari, a noble householder, or an exalted sannyasi. These designations reflect a material pride that can infiltrate the execution of devotional service. Although a devotee may carry out the standard duties of Varnashrama, his only designation is Gopi Bhartu Padakamalayar Dasa Dasa, the eternal servant of the servant of the servant of the Lord, the master of the gopis, Krishna. According to Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur, when a devotee understands that the process of bhakti yoga is complete in itself, and he becomes absorbed in hearing and chanting the glories of the Lord. The supremely merciful personality of God affectionately lifts such a first-class devotee onto his own lap. The Supreme Lord can be pleased only by unalloyed devotion and not by any arrangement of the gross body composed of five material elements or the subtle body composed of innumerable speculations and bogus pride. In other words, Lord Krishna can never be pleased by one's so-called aristocratic body, which is due to be devoured by worms or vultures. If one becomes proud of his material birth and so-called pious activities by such false pride, one gradually develops the impersonal mentality of merely renouncing the fruit of work, or else the karmi mentality of enjoying the fruits of work. Neither the karmis nor the jnani speculators are aware that the fruit of work actually belongs to Krishna. The conclusion is that one should carefully give up all false pride and always remember that he is a humble servant of Krishna, as stated by Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, Amanina manadena kirtaniya sadahari. Kam karoti vachalam pangam langhaite girim yat kripatam aham vande Sri Gurum dinatarinam. So reading the verse one more time. Na yasya janma karma bhyam navarna shrama jati vihi sajite smin aham bhavo dehe vai sahare priyaha. Birth in an aristocratic family and the execution of austere and pious activities certainly cause one to take pride in himself. Similarly, if one enjoys a prestigious position within society because his parents are highly respected members of the Varnashram social system, one becomes even more infatuated with himself. But if despite these excellent material qualifications, one does not feel even a tinge of false pride within himself, he is to be considered the dearmost servitor of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. So long purport here. So one of the symptoms of a highly advanced devotee is what's called a mana shunyata. So in the Bhakti Rasamrita Sindhu, the Nectar of Devotion, it's probably translates it. It describes the stage of bhava bhakti. It's the stage where a devotee reaches perfection in their eternal relationship with Krishna and becomes overwhelmed. The heart melts, and the devotee becomes overwhelmed with transcendental feelings for Krishna, and sometimes cries, sometimes the hair stand on end, and so on. Different ecstatic symptoms can take place. But these symptoms may not always be visible externally. But certain symptoms will be manifest. So Rupa Goswami mentions 9 of them. I think last week or the week before that one devotee was speaking about all these 9. So one of them is called manasunyata, or pridelessness. So this is defined as utkrishtatvepya amanitvam. That is called, although the person is most exalted, there's no sense of pride. Mana sunyata. Sunyata means voidness. There's nothing there. Sunya means nothing. So it's completely free from false pride, which is an extraordinary quality. One who has no pride. The nature of the material world that the prophet often quotes this. The pauper is proud of his penny. We're in a situation where we have so little to be proud of. Actually, we have nothing to be proud of in the material world. As it said in the purport, that birth in any material body is a serious problem. taking a material body is like accepting a prisoner's uniform. So it is not a very commendable position to be stuck in a material body. Uh, the vast majority of the living beings, they are not in this world. It says that this material world is called ekapat vibhuti. It is only one part of the Lord's creation, and three-fourths of his energies manifest in the spiritual world. So the vast majority of existence is actually the spiritual world, where the living beings live in complete freedom, um, in complete bliss. They have all good qualities, just like the Lord. They're situated in Shuddha Sattva, in pure goodness. They're radiant, transcendental personalities, just like the Lord. So for us to be here in this material world, in this material body, which is so full of ignorant ignorance, ignorant substances, um, its destiny is described as ashes, as stool, if we happen to become eaten by some animal after we pass away, like vultures, or it will be eaten or devoured by worms, in which case the body also turns into the byproduct of the worm's digestive system. So that's the destination of the material body. So it's nothing to be proud of. Whether you are, the poorest person, or you're insanely rich, you're a billionaire, or even nowadays, like someone is about to become a trillionaire. But we still go to the same bathroom every morning or every day. Even sometimes those are rich, there's so many anxieties. They can't even like go to the bathroom properly. That aside, but you can go to the bath. You can some have a golden toilet, and they're very proud. I am so rich. I pass on a golden toilet. Now, but it's the business is the business of the material body. So there's absolutely nothing to be proud of in this world. There's a story of which I've heard many times. I don't know the exact reference. So it's a story about Srila Prabhupada. I also like to check my sources to know if it's true. But regardless of the accuracy, it's still a good story. So I'm going to tell it anyways. So I've heard this from Ravindra Prabhu. So this is a pretty good source. I would say an excellent source. So one devotee was asking Srila Prabhupada, Prabhupada, sometimes I feel pride. And Prabhupada just looked at the devotee and this sense of like, why? What is what is there to be proud of? You're here in this material world. So that's the vision of a pure soul, that there's nothing to be proud of. And they, although such elevated souls, they have all the good qualities. Mm. That's actual humility. That's actual pridelessness, is to actually have all good qualities, have actually so much to be proud of in the material sense, but they are not. They are not. They don't have any sense of false ego. Um, yeah, and it's a wonderful quality. Like I was thinking of this class. I, just a couple of days ago, we had the Vyas Puja of His Holiness Radhanath Swami Maharaj. Such an exalted soul with so many exalted qualities, and yet completely devoid of pride. very humble, very meek, um, and very pure. And we say also some devotees, you know, I'm thinking one devotee in our community, His Grace Gaura Mahaprabhu. I don't know if he's on this call, but that's that's my pleasure to glorify him a little bit because that's the least thing he's seeking. Very qualified person, very intelligent, um, highly educated. He, but you never hear him speak about any of his accomplishments, although he's very accomplished materially. Uh, so, and you always see him like humbly serving prasad or serving in this way or another, always very meek, very humble, very, um, yeah, never drawing any attention to himself. And Radha Swami Maharaj, he also glorified him for that. That if you want to understand who is truly humble, then see a person like that who has so many qualifications, but not a tinge of false pride. So it's wonderful to have such devotees, even in our association, in our sangha, in our community. Because the tendency in the material world is to always seek um, some honor, some respect because of what's called the false ego, as it's described here in the verse, aham bhava, the sense of I. And so in this material world, everybody, it says sajjate asmin aham bhava dehe. So in this material world, every living being attaches themselves to the material body as their sense of I. The ahankara, false ego, ahankara also means I maker, or I am the doer. So in the sense of I maker, it's when we're all eternal souls, we're all part of Krishna. But when we lose that identity, when we forget that identity, then we become devoid of I. We become devoid of our true sense of self. And as a result, we need to develop some kind of identity in this material world, which becomes based on the material body. And then there's so many materials bodies. It's based on the material body, material mind. Stellar body is also material body. So then uh, we develop an identity around that, around the material body, and and then we seek approval for that identity. We seek acknowledgement. We seek appreciation for that identity. Um, we take shelter in that. So that's why, you know, birth in an aristocratic family, or here it's described a family within the Varnashram system. So that becomes a sort of source of pride. I am a Brahmana. I am a Kshatriya. I am a Vaishya, or even I am a Shudra. Uh, Everybody who identifies with a certain identity in this material world, according to the body, will want to have acknowledgement for that, want to have, um, uh, yeah, want to be honored for that. Um, and especially in this age, although there's not much of a Varnashram system, the common denominator for uh, being honored is wealth. Even in India, which now this where still you have some sense of varnashram system. It's like the main thing is how much wealth do you have, and that determines your status in society. So that becomes your prestige. How much wealth do you have, and how much wealth does your family have? And we find that not just in India, everywhere. I'm just mentioning that because that's where the varnashram system is most prevalent. But in its breaking down of it, we see that's kind of the new sense of how your where your honor is coming from, is how much wealth you have. So yeah, it's all a trick of the false ego. I lost myself. I lost my true identity. I lost the sense of my satisfaction in just being a part of Krishna, being very small. Because what is our true identity? Uh, it says that the soul is Anu Chaitanya. Baladev Vichibhushana says, we're minute consciousness. The Shastra says 1/10,000, the tip of a hair. That's just a way for describing it as something extremely small. It's actually more small than that. It's extremely, you can't even measure it in a material sense, but it's minute. We're very tiny. And um, but when that tiny spark loses its, but it's that tiny spark. We, as a tiny spark of Krishna, we're still glorious in its way, in its true identity. Like a particle of sunshine, it's also radiant like the sun. It's small, but it's also glorious in that sense. And the sun, if you take the sun as a glorious, radiant body, then that spark also has a spark of that glory. So we as souls, we are divine. Um, we are part of Krishna, the supreme divine. And when we realize that, there's a great satisfaction in that. There's a great sense of coming home to our true self, uh, happy being small, being a radiant particle of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. So when we lose that identity, then we seek that identity in the material world through the false ego, based on the material body. And that is very unfortunate, because we're seeking value. We're seeking value in somewhere where it's not. So, so the remedy here is to truly identify oneself with what's one's real identity. Um, and Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, he taught us that. He taught us a beautiful prayer. He spoke this during the Ratha Yatra, when he was in front of Lord Jagannath, um, right in the middle of the festival, and he started to offer prayers to the Lord. And one of the prayers he spoke, and this verse also actually attributed to him. There's a few verses attributed to Lord Chaitanya. Shikshastakam, of course, is most famous, but this verse also is attributed to Lord Chaitanya. Naham vipro nachanarapatir napivaishu nashudro naham varni nachigrihapatir navanastho yatirva kintu projanikhila paramananda purnamritabdhe gopi bhartu padakamalayar dasa dasa dasa. I'm not a Brahmana, I'm not a Kshatriya, I'm not a Vaishya, not a Shudra, nor am I a Brahmacharya, a Grihastha, Vanaprastha, or Sannyasi. I'm simply Gopi Bhattu Padakamalaya, or Dasa, Dasana Dasa, the servant of the servant of the servant of Krishna, the maintainer of the gopis, who's Nikhila Paramananda, Purna Amrita there, who's an ocean of transcendental bliss. So in deity worship, when we worship the deity, before we start our puja, we meditate on this verse. And there's some additional prayer, which I won't recite here, but the sense is that I'm not this material body. I'm not this material mind. I'm a spiritual spark, completely separate from the gross and subtle bodies. But having forgotten this, I've continuously wandered in the cycle of repeated birth and death, suffering the burning threefold miseries. Now, by the grace of my spiritual master, I can understand who I am, a spiritual spark, and completely separate from the gross and subtle bodies. And by his grace, I have the opportunity to again engage in the service of his lotus feet and the lotus feet of Sri Sri Radha Muridhar Gaura Chandra. So, actually, the whole process of archana, of deity worship, Srila Prabhupada says that archana, the worship of the Lord in the temple, means or confirms that we're not this body, but a spirit soul. And that's how he defines archana in the Nectar Devotion. It confirms that we're not this body, we're a spirit soul. And that's why deity worship is so important, because these kind of false identifications with our birth, janma, with our wealth, with our even our knowledge, our position in society, our bodily beauty, and so on. Um, these are all they all tie us down, these identifications, and they don't allow us to call the Lord, to chant with sincere feeling. Once we are absorbed in our materialistic identity and taking pride in that, then we can't, Kunti says, call to the Lord. And when we're not akinchana, when we don't feel like I have nothing in this material world, then we cannot really call to the Lord with sincere feeling. So that's a problem. This misidentification doesn't allow us to actually properly approach the process of Shravanam and Kirtanam. So therefore, deity worship is very important, because it allows us to act like a soul, act exactly as a soul in service of Krishna, assisting our spiritual master in serving Krishna. So Gopi Bhartar, Parikamlira Dasa Dasana Dasa, becoming that, becoming the servant of the servant, and identifying oneself as such. Real worship means one leaves behind the material identity and engages in the service of Krishna as a pure soul. That's the essence of deity worship, to act as a soul, to act as the servant of the servant of the servant. Of course, anything can also become a material designation. I'm a pujari, I'm a brahmana. Look at, I'm a Vaishnava. Even these can be material designations. One can take false pride in all of these. But the true spirit of bhakti is to come as we truly are, as a tiny, tiny spark of Krishna, um, um, as his eternal servant, the servant of his servant, uh, the servant of the servant of the servant. And in this spirit, we can render pleasing service to Krishna. And um, and in this way, as it says in the verse as well, become very dear to Hari, become dear to the Lord. The Lord becomes very pleased. Krishna is not attainable very easily, but he becomes attained by one he's akinchana gochara. His name is akinchana gochara. He is attained by someone who feels they don't have nothing in this material world. They have nothing to prove. They have nothing to, they have no material identity they take pride in. Um, they just identify with being the servant of the servant, and in this spirit they call out to the Lord with feeling. So Krishna becomes very pleased by such a devotee. So that's the symptom of a pure devotee, and we can cultivate that, especially through the process of uh, worshiping the deities, and also very much so by serving the Vaishnavas, especially those who are manasunyata, who are free from false pride, becoming the servant of the servant of the servant. That's the antidote to this egoistic mentality. So thank you all so much. I'll leave some time for questions and comments.
Thank you, Vasudev Prabhu. Min, followed by Gail, please.
Thank you so much for a wonderful class. There are a lot of things you shared just now that gave me a lot of questions, but just want to focus on the last bit that you shared, which is deity worship. Um, I have been coming to this recognition in myself where in serving the deities at home, and I'm very fortunate to have through my partner beautiful Panchatattva deities at home. And I just realized not too long ago that the consciousness I have towards them is very casual. I mean, there's the morning time to very short, serving the deities and making food throughout the day. But outside of that, when I'm walking by them, hanging out in the temple room, like I've also caught myself just speaking about nonsense in front of deities also, and I caught myself. I'm just wondering what is the best thing that I can do now where I can better see the deities as Krishna himself.
Well, we have to hear continuously from Shastra to understand who that the deity is Krishna. We have to properly understand it. And then, yes, there are certain etiquettes around the deities. We can read in the Nectar of Devotion, all the offenses are mentioned there. So should be aware of that. That will be a good source for you to read. That just creating more awareness through hearing. And then, following that, of course, in your home situation, many temples have many ancient homes. They have in India, you see like older homes, they all have a temple room within them, actually. There's a place designated for worship. Of course, in a New York apartment, or I don't know what your situation is, but your temple is kind of like your living room. So yeah,
It's an open space, yeah.
it's an open space. Yeah. So what can you do? It's like you cannot exactly, Krishna also understands that he's also kind of becomes a member of your family in that way. So that's also a nice spirit. But we can, as best as we can, um, try to follow these etiquettes. Yeah, being aware, especially when we do our daily worship of the deities, then we can really try to cultivate that consciousness. Yeah, Krishna is really here, and that will spread throughout our day. But we should also kind of understand we have limitations in how much we can do.
Mm, mm.
That's natural. You also have a living space. You can't follow like exactly temple room etiquette in a living space. So it just requires a little bit of balance too. But especially that time of worship, you really dedicated to that, and then that's where you just be very very serious and very present, and really try to come as you are and be fully present for the Lord.
Thank you.
Yes, Gail.
Hi, Krishna, Prabhu,
Hare Krishna.
everybody. You know, in my phone comes daily a quote from Srila Prabhupada, by Srila Prabhupada, um, that he made on that specific date of whatever year, like today is December 9th. So a quote will come that was made by Srila Prabhupada on December 9th. If today was December 10th, I would receive a quote that he made on December 10th. So today's quote by Srila Prabhupada reads like this. It says, or Srila Prabhupada said, "Who feels humble and meek has the door for the kingdom of God opened for him or her." So this is the theme of your talk today. So I just found it so interesting, an interesting quote unquote coincidence that the quote that came from Srila Prabhupada today was the theme of your talk today. That's it.
Yeah, thank you. I'm also thinking of the Bible, Jesus' Sermon on the Mount,
Yeah, I know what you're thinking.
which is a very you know, it's quite a wonderful set of teachings. He starts with, "Blessed are the poor in spirit, for theirs are the kingdom of heaven."
Hmm.
So that same idea is there, that, blessed are the meek, blessed are the humble. Yeah, it's absolutely necessary to develop that quality in order to attract Krishna's mercy.
Yeah, Hare Krishna.
And of course, Krishna also helps us to develop those qualities.
You mean by smashings?
Yeah, we have purifications. Pride is such, you know, I heard this example from Revati Ramana Prabhu, very nice devotee, temple president of Tirupati. He said, pride is like sweat. Generally, we don't smell it ourselves, but everybody else can.
Oh my God.
Very nice example. So many times we don't see our own pride, and but Krishna will help us see it, and it can be sometimes very painful. Uh, but yes, that's his mercy to his devotees, that he helps us to humble ourselves.
Yeah, I also thought there was it caught my attention when you were saying that you were glorifying the jiva as a spark of God, just a particle of sun ray. Although it's so minute, it's still so splendorous, and you compared that to the jiva as a spark of God. And I found it interesting that, yes, that's probably why it's by our nature that we have this maybe desire to be, um, I don't know if it's to be glorified. It's because by nature, our original nature, it is glorious, and so it's like kind of natural for us to want that, even though, we're seeking it in a perverted sense in this material world by identifying with something that we're not to to attain that glory. You
Yes,
know,
I think the darshan is about to open.
oh, okay.
Yes, we just very briefly want to comment on it. Yes, therefore also to we have a false ego, just like we have a mind, we have a body, and therefore some appreciation, some acknowledgement is also necessary and natural in our present state. We just have to gradually shift that towards that my sense of self and my sense of feeling whole doesn't come from a material designation. It comes from pleasing Krishna and the Vaishnavas. That is my identity, and when I do that, that's my source of strength and um, you know wholeness. Okay, I think darshan is happening. Srila Prabhupada ki jai, Srimad Bhagavatam ki jai.
Lotus feet of our spiritual master are the only way by which we can obtain pure devotional service. I bow down to his lotus feet with great awe and reverence. By his grace, one can cross the ocean of material suffering and obtain the mercy of Krishna. My only wish is to have my consciousness purified by the words emanating from his lotus mouth. Attachment to his lotus feet is the perfection that fulfills all desires. He opens my darkened eyes and fills my heart with transcendental knowledge. He is my Lord, birth after birth. From him, ecstatic prema emanates, and by him, ignorance is destroyed. The Vedic scriptures sing of his character. Our spiritual master is the ocean of mercy, friend of the poor and the Lord of masters with devotees. Oh, Master, be merciful unto us. Give us the shade of your lotus feet. That your fame be spread all over the three worlds. We take shelter at your lotus feet.
Jai Srila Prabhupada. Thank you, Janitai Prabhu, for facilitating the darshan. Hare Krishna, welcome to the Afterglow. I was looking at the deities, and I was looking at Vasudev Prabhu looking at the deities. He was looking at the deities with so much love and care. It's unbelievable. It is so inspiring to witness this love and exchange between the deities and the head pujari, Vasudev Prabhu. Thank you, Vasudev Prabhu. Would anyone like to speak? This is the Afterglow. Please be brief. Let's see if we have a senior devotee here to answer. We have Krishna Kumari. Okay, that's good. We have Bhima and Paula. All right. Okay, I feel good. Let's go. Let's do questions. Reflections, testimonies.
I just had a quick reflection, can't talk, reflection, just about that last point about the pridefulness, just because I was reading it yesterday. I was just reminded in Bhagavad Gita, chapter 13, 8 through 12, like I put in the chat box, one of my favorites. sections, it's like when Krishna is talking about what is actually intelligence, what is actually wisdom, and he starts with humility, and then he doubles down with pridelessness, and it's just it's such a great reminder. That's where he starts the list, and then the list ends off with understanding that the most important thing is your search for your true self. So I just felt like that was the thread line, because we'll never understand self-realization if we're not humble, and if we're not prideless. So as Vasudev was speaking, I was just seeing that wonderful line from those first things to the very last, the conclusion of that passage. And everything else is just like, I don't, it's not the word poppycock, but I forget how it ends. But everything else we learn isn't really worth anything if we don't have those qualities, beginning with humility and pridelessness. So,
Thank you, Jamuna Jaya. Yeah, I remember when I was 12, I thought I had everything figured out. I thought I knew everything at age 12. I was so confident. I know this life. What are the parents? What do they know? But then life and Krishna humbled me. And I'm so humble now. Jim, I'm still
there's
learning.
a post there's a poster I saw once in somebody's desk, and it said, "Teenagers, move out and get a job while you still know everything."
That's right. That's right. Thank you. Anybody else wants to speak on humility? I know Bhima Prabhu knows all about humility because Paula is keeping him very humble.
It's not humble, it's humiliated.
Thank you. Thank you. Bhima Kaviraj is very concise today. Okay. Maternath Prabhu, I have a question. I like your questions. What's the meaning of life? You're like a Naimisharanya forest sage.
Haribo, I had a reflection and share. I was thinking we can learn humility a few different ways, through ignoring Krishna and trying to find our way in the material world, be the controller, be the doer. So then Krishna then has to, as you were saying, I like to say Krishna has a corrective measures that out of love to help us steer us back. And sometimes we think it's whoa, that's really harsh, or no, there it's very loving because he's trying to bring us back. But we can also be very humbled, feel so much humility in the fact of how much Krishna loves us, how much he cares for us, how much he takes care of us, and really how we're like children, and Krishna's there taking care of us in these the most amazing ways, and he loves us so dearly, unconditionally. His love is unconditional. In this world, we're very much conditioned to conditional love, but Krishna's love is unconditional. He never rejects us. It's an unbreakable love. So this can very much humble us if we are stepping into this space when we're chanting, when we're meditating on Krishna, when we're talking to Krishna. And so much sweeter to step into humility from this space instead of, I'm going to try to be the doer and controller and figure everything out. Where Krishna is saying, I want to enter your world, let me in, and I'll show you, I'll teach you, I'll guide you, I'll empower you. I'll uplift you. I'll give you knowledge. He says in the Bhagavad Gita how he's the lamp of shining knowledge. He's going to, and he dispels our ignorance. So if we want the anarthas to be dispelled, we got to let him in. And a lot of time we're thinking, well, I have to chase Krishna. I have to get him. No, it's a descending. So we're letting Krishna descend and come into our life. I want your love to come in. I want you to come in and guide me. And so much we're also conditioned to be achievers and to prove ourselves in this world. Krishna's not interested in that. He wants, it's like a child saying, I'm gonna prove myself so I'll get your love, dad or mom. But they're saying, like, I already love you. I care about you. You don't need to prove anything. Just allow us to guide you, allow us to teach you, allow us to love you. So those are some reflections I was having this morning.
Thank you, Mathuranath Prabhu. Mathuranath Harrison. You're speaking like George Harrison. Krishna, please. I need you. I want to see you. The source of humility is Krishna. Thank you so much for pointing that out. It's not necessarily the material beat down or some self-work. It's Krishna. Krishna is a source of humility because he's wonderful and he's taking care of us at all times and he's available anytime. Devaki Priti, who is lower than the blade of grass. More humble than a blade of grass, yes.
I'm trying to learn from all of you so I can be like that. Thank you so much, Materna, for what you just shared. And I was just thinking about, I don't know which beggar book by Bhakti Maharaj it is, but there's a pastime where there's a meditation where he's talking about that. It's like he's speaking and then I think it's like Radha or Krishna are responding, and it's kind of like with how you were talking about mother and father. And it's really sweet. I'm gonna try to find the meditation to put in our group. But I was just reminded of that because it's in the meditation he's talking about that, like how much we're loved and they just want us to come back to them, you know? So I just was reminded of that when you were sharing. Thank you so much for what you shared.
Bye. Yeah, when we're chanting if we haven't chanted all our rounds today, or if if we have and we're gonna chant more, we're gonna chant tomorrow. Sit and meditate with Radharani on one side of you, Krishna on the other side of you, and they're embracing you while you chant, because that's what we're asking. My Lord, please come and embrace me. Please come and be here with me. So the holy name will just wrap itself around it. The holy name is Radha and Krishna. So we have to also realize this is Krishna. We're talking about the deities. The deities are Krishna. But the holy name, Krishna says, Lord Chaitanya, I've invested all of my energies in this Maha Mantra. Everything it's non-different than Krishna. So we can feel Krishna, Radha and Krishna's embrace when we're chanting.
Thank you, Mathuranath Prabhu. Thank you, Devaki Priti. Isaiah and Annabelle, are you here? Are you available to chant Hare Krishna for Krishna's pleasure?
Oh, there we go. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare.
Thank you very much. So many devotees have reached out to me saying, Annabelle and Isaiah, when they chant Hare Krishna, it energizes me for the whole day. Yeah, see, so Rav has the same realization. Thank you. Thank you very much. We love you. We need you. Come again tomorrow. Hare Krishna. Ram, say Hare Krishna. Hare Krishna.